Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word. I forgot the name of the channel. Oh my god, that's a fantastic start to this stream. Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word and to the Russian Grand Prix race reaction live. Yes. Oh, this doesn't bode well, does it? I'm going to be joined by Jonty and Dan to talk about the Russian Grand Prix. Not a bad race. Not a bad race. It wasn't amazing. It's not going to be one that I look back on at the end of the season and go, oh my God, we need another one of those. But it was intriguing. Enthralling is a word I used about 700 times in the watch along. I quite enjoyed it. But there's some controversial moments in there. Some might say controversial. And some good action as well. Once again, particularly in that midfield. Let's start though. By having a look at the race result, I think kind of makes the most sense. Lewis Hamilton. Yes, took victory in Sochi ahead of teammate Valtteri Bottas, but as I always say, that does not tell the full story. Charles Leclerc, third place for Ferrari. Yeah, Max Verstappen in fourth for Red Bull. Alex Albon, pit lane to P5. Almost as good as pit lane to points, as a saying. Really good drive from Albon, benefited from some safety cars, but still deserves that fifth place. Carlos Sainz, fantastic again, P6. Sergio Perez came home in seventh place for Racing Points. Some big points for them as well. Lando Norris, eighth. McLaren, by the way, ticking over the 100 points barrier for the first time since, I think, 2014. So well done to them. Kevin Magnussen, ninth. Not happy despite the fact it's Haas back in the points. His interview with Sky was littered with censoring. Let's put it that way. He was not a happy boy with that penalty. Nico Hülkenberg, he took the final point just ahead of Lance Stroll. 10th for him and 11th for Stroll. 12th for Daniil Kvyat on what was a miserable home Grand Prix weekend for him. Didn't run his helmet in the end, which is annoying. 13th for Kimi Raikkonen. 14th for Pierre Gasly. And 15th was Antonio Giovinazzi. And your retirement list is a slightly longer one than usual. Robert Kubica retired with a mechanical issue. George Russell, I believe I heard just before I went live, had an issue with his brakes and went straight into the wall. Sebastian Vettel, he had a mechanical problem. He failed to finish. Daniel Ricciardo as well. And Romain Grosjean was out in that first lap. A first lap incident with Giovinazzi and co. Right then, let's kick things off and say a very good afternoon to Jonty. Did you enjoy that one, mate? It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. One of those intriguing races where it's all a case of which strategy is going to work. I mean, well, it should be intriguing. We all know which strategy isn't going to work.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk about Ferrari in a bit. Yeah, bizarre. And also a very good afternoon to, I'd imagine, a pretty miserable Dan. Good afternoon, Dan, mate.
Hiya. Not that miserable. Deflated, I think I'll say after. Yeah, definitely deflated after lap one. But as you've both said, not a bad race, all things considered.
Yeah, Xbox player in chat saying a decent race. I think that's quite good. I mean, where do you want to start? I think probably we'd usually start with the winner, but I think we've got to start with Ferrari, Jonty. Over recent races, there's been a lot of praise for their strategy. They've got some really good things right. Obviously, Singapore, they managed to get the 1-2. However, whichever driver you support, depends on how you feel about that 1-2. But they went for it with the team and they got that 1-2 finish. A lot of messing about today. Do you think, and I think Sky, Jenson Button was making the point, and a couple of others as well, they seemed to overcomplicate the whole thing, didn't they? Because they're some agreement, if you didn't see it, between Leclerc and Vettel and the team, that if Leclerc gives Vettel the toe down to turn 2 and he gets through, Leclerc will be allowed to take the position back. And then there was arguing over team radio when they did the switch in the pit stop. It was just a mess, and it seemed way too overcomplicated.
It certainly did to me, and you have to ask, they're not in the title fight anymore. So what's the deal with coming up with all these convoluted pre-plans or orders? There's utterly no point whatsoever. They're not going to gain anything by it. As we've seen today, they've actually lost because of it. It's utterly ridiculous. And all they're doing is creating more of a rift between drivers who are already desperately trying to beat each other, one to save his career and one at the start of his.
What do you make of it all, Dan? Just sort of first impressions on that team order situation. I've said overcomplicated, kind of taking words from Sky there, because I kind of like the way they put that, but it just seemed really Ridiculous. Ridiculous is a good word. That's how it felt listening to it on team radio, just absolutely as if they had this agreement but didn't actually know how they were going to execute it.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you there. I mean, to me, it just felt so unnecessary. It was only in the first 10 laps of the Grand Prix, and they're talking about swapping each other around. I mean, come on, boys, there's 40 more to go. I, I think, like both of you, I can only echo what you've just said. It just felt so unneeded. And maybe it was, I don't know, in reaction to what happened last time out in Singapore, and they felt that perhaps they should have swapped the drivers round at the end. I don't feel they needed to. But also, Leclerc had said before the Grand Prix, starting on pole at this circuit isn't the best place to be. So he was probably aware anyway that Sebastian was going to have a good run. Again, I don't want to take away too much what you two are going to say in a moment, but it just felt a little bit silly, a little bit daft, I think.
Well, the thing is, you make the point there on the slipstream. That run down to turn one, Leclerc, as you've said, knew that was going to be a threat. That was their concern with Mercedes. That's why they came up with this strategy. Did Leclerc deliberately give Vettel the toe, or was Vettel going to get that anyway? Because he had a mega start, Dan, to be fair to him. Was already past Hamilton before they'd even got round turn one, that stupid little kink that they are determined to call turn one for whatever reason. But he was already past at that point. Great start. Surely, whether Leclerc wants to defend or not, Vettel's got the toe. So why's Vettel got to then give that position back, team orders or not, whether that's an agreement or not?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the camp that he did move over to give Vettel the toe. I mean, before the Grand Prix, they showed a few replays of past years, and most of the drivers, as you say, at that kind of turn one, that isn't really a turn one, most of them had been moving right to the apex there, and Leclerc didn't do that this year. So I feel he was giving Vettel the toe, but then you'd rather give Vettel the toe than Lewis Hamilton, who's not your teammate. So this is where it's strange for me, because I can see where both drivers are coming from, because I'm sure Leclerc wasn't as aggressive into turn one when defending Vettel, because he was expecting to get the position back. But from Vettel's side of things, he's thinking, well, it doesn't matter if they're team orders or not, I'm the guy who's got the speed here and is going to be leading the Grand Prix. So I think, like you've both said, Ferrari sort of dug themselves a hole before the race had even begun by even suggesting that, because you look at historical data at this Grand Prix, the guys that start P2 and 3 historically get the better run into turn one.
Well, in the 5 races in Russia, the pole sitters only won twice.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's shooting himself in the foot is exactly what they did, because Vettel, as we all know, got that gap. And as much as Leclerc wanted to say, come on, guys, we need to swap back around, Hamilton was sticking with them. And maybe that's something Ferrari hadn't factored in, that Mercedes' pace wasn't actually that bad.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think, personally, doing the watch-along and whatnot, and I just think, regardless of whether Leclerc wants to deliberately give Vettel that toe or not, Vettel is going to get that toe down that straight, and chances are he's going to be alongside in turn one. So even if Leclerc goes, do you know what, screw your agreement, I'm sticking this on the inside, he ain't coming through, Vettel's going to go down the outside and he's going to have a shot of taking that lead anyway. So it's a difficult one to call. I don't know where you stand on this, Jonty, but for me, I can completely understand Leclerc saying, hang on a minute, we had an agreement before this race, I want that position back. But number one, Vettel, again, could have got that toe himself anyway without an agreement. Number two, and probably the most important point in this whole thing, Vettel was quicker once he was out front. Leclerc could not keep pace with him.
Yeah, exactly. Vettel couldn't keep up, and it wasn't even just... Leclerc couldn't keep up, and it wasn't just by a little bit either. Vettel was plenty clear enough so there wasn't really any dirty air for Leclerc to deal with. And at the end of the day, the whole thing with the agreement at the start, I can understand it making sense to defend against the Mercedes, but the biggest point here, Leclerc fluffed his start. So no matter what plan they've got in place, it's already out the window because it's not going to work because his start was so bad compared to Vettel. So that's where he really needs to just mature a little bit instead of all the whining and crying on the radio, even as late as lap 10.
I think that was my frustration.
Realise he got it wrong.
That's my frustration, John. Yeah. Is the fact, sorry, mate, it's just that it was lap 8, 9, 10 in the race. At least let the race unfold a bit and then see where you are, because you could do all that swappy on lap 8 and end up 4th and 5th.
Yeah, exactly. It was completely pointless. And all Ferrari did, the team, was complicate matters. By saying, oh, we'll sort something out later, blah, this, that, and the other. They should have just told him straight, no, you screwed your start, plan's out the window, we're on to plan B, get on with it. There was quite a lot of response on Twitter from saying, look, is anyone going to say this? No? All right. Leclerc, you fluffed it. Get your head down, get on with your job.
It's I don't know if you can tell. It's totally baffled me completely because, like, again, I agree with you, Jonty, and I get what Dan's saying as well with the fact that if you're in Ferrari's position, you want to protect from Mercedes, but it just seems like a pointless agreement going right back to what you said at the start, Jonty, for a team that are at best going to finish second in the Constructors and at worst third. Let's be honest, probably after the run they had of those 3 races, they're probably going to be second. I think they've just about got Red Bull in that. But they're not going to fight for the championship. If this was a fight for the Drivers' Championship and all this swapping positions and farting about like that, I would sort of understand, and I would understand the outrage from... not outrage, but frustration from Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel going, hang on a minute, I'm fighting for the championship, I'm not letting him go. But do you think I suppose that's the question then. And chat, feel free to drop your 2 cents in on this one as well. But Dan, do you think Vettel should have stuck by that agreement with the team and with Leclerc and let him back through?
I think how it played out before Seb retired, spoilers, I think actually that was the best way to do it. Leave Seb out in front and do it through the pit stops. I think that was... I mean, the whole thing itself, I just think is silly. But if you're going to do an agreement beforehand, I think the most sensible way is to do it through the pit stop. So, no, I think Seb did the right thing. Although you can tell I'm a bit like you. It's so bizarre, the whole situation. I'm still a little bit on the fence, but pit stops for me the best way to go.
What about you, Jonty? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Is Jonty there?
Sorry, got to press the button.
No, you're right.
Vettel was absolutely in the right to race away. The plan was out the window 10 metres off the start line. And you can't just keep going on and on about it when you know that it's completely wrong. If he had slowed down enough to give Leclerc that place back, they'd have lost out even further.
My view, had Leclerc been quicker, yeah, make the switch. But Vettel for me was quick enough. And like you said, it wasn't by a thousandth here and a thousandth there. It's not like he was on his backside 9/10 behind. I think at one point he was over 3, maybe 4 seconds behind him. So, and the other thing as well, and I think commentary said this. Go back 12 months to the Mercedes team orders and Bottas's orders out of Hamilton's way. How much time did he lose? Now, I know the virtual safety car kind of decided things anyway, if you like. But if that virtual safety car doesn't happen, Vettel is going to lose with that gap to Leclerc 3, maybe 4 seconds in the battle with Mercedes. And that 1-2 suddenly could become a 1-3, or as it turned out, didn't even end up with a win. So I kind of get the point of trying to defend for Mercedes at the start, but I don't think Seb needed to get that position back. And I know people are going to say it's another multi-21 situation, but it's not another multi-21 situation. Mark Webber, even though I stand by what I always say, and that I will defend Vettel over that because it's a race, we want to see racing, although it is a team sport, Webber had everything turned down. They were cruising those cars to the end. That's the difference in that one. These guys are racing. Vettel's absolutely flying out front compared to Leclerc. If Leclerc wants that position, it's back to that old argument, close in and take it at the end of the day. I know F1's hard to overtake and hard to follow and all of that, but 4 seconds behind, let's say, or even 2-3 seconds behind, they can't tell Seb to stop on track, which he did ironically in the end anyway, but stop on track and let Leclerc through. That's my view on that one. I don't know if you've got any more you want to add on that, Dan, before we move on to how disastrous it went from there for Ferrari.
I will just say, I'm surprised Seb even agreed to this in the first place, because obviously I agree with what you said, Jonty, about Leclerc's start wasn't the best, but Sebastian, they obviously planned for him to be ahead at the beginning of the race. So initially, before the race started, he was willing to let Leclerc through. So to me, that is so unlike Sebastian Vettel. So that's a little bit bizarre. But no, apart from that, I think you're both pretty spot on with this one.
Anything else, Jonty?
No, I was just going to disagree a little bit and say I think it's exactly like another multi-21 because in both instances you've got at least 4 seconds pace difference between them. After just a couple of laps. So Vettel's read the situation and decided to go with the sensible option. It's been the other way for him in the past, and he himself has complained about it, but also accepted it. People saying, oh, Leclerc accepted it on the radio. You can say he understands the situation. No, listen to the tone of his voice. That's a petulant teenager's tone. It really is. And I hope that he just doesn't go down that road. I've complained a lot about Hamilton, Vettel, Verstappen, Grosjean, various other people in the past for their constant whining on the radio every now and then. I don't want Leclerc to go the same way because he's been very, very pleasant and humble up until now.
Vettel used to be though, didn't he, when he was younger?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a fair
we
point.
used to give him the nickname Princess Stampyfoot because the second any one thing didn't go his way, he was whining on the radio lap after lap. Don't do the same, Charles.
I mean, I was going to say, I said in the watch along, people saying, "Oh no, he's understanding it." It's like, no, it's like, oh, this is gonna. I feel so condescending saying this about Charles, but it's like saying to a kid, "Apologise to your brother," and them going, "Sorry." So you don't mean that. He's gonna get in that pit garage afterwards, and he's gonna be like, "Right, Mattia." Words, and he's probably gonna get slapped around the back of his head for it as well. But yeah, no, I agree with that point. I'll agree to disagree on the multi-21. But yeah, that's we don't want drivers doing that, man. You want a grid full of Norrises, don't you? Who are just like forever. That's what you want on team radio. But I will say just very quickly because I didn't get to do a race reaction after Singapore. But I do want to say this super quickly. I don't want these drivers. Although I agree with you, Jonty, that we don't need the whining, I don't want these drivers to stop being passionate on team radio. There's a lot of debate about what Leclerc should and shouldn't have said. Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez, Kubica, if they want to whine on team radio, fine, let them whine. And we don't necessarily like it, but we want to see that passion. We've got people saying we don't want these drivers being corporate machines, and we're sick of them going in the pen and going, oh yes, I respect what the team have done and this is all wonderful and everybody's so great and I'm not overly happy, but we look to the next one, and that kind of PR rubbish. We want to hear that passion, that anger, that frustration, that joy. Leclerc crossing the line for pole, people don't like that he gets so emotional. I love that. Lewis Hamilton yesterday on team radio after he got second, when he knows that all right, this will go down really well with people, but probably had no right with the pace of that Mercedes to be second. But the passion and the emotion he's got in that's what we want to hear, whether that's positive or negative. The whining's annoying, but I don't want, like some people are saying on social media, well, these drivers need to really watch what they say. No, they don't. I don't want that. And I'm going to move on because otherwise I'm just going to end up ranting like mad on it because it's either you want PR machines or you want passion, which is it? And I'd rather have passion than PR nonsense that we're all sick of. But anyway, VSC, well, to be honest, actually, Jonty, Ferrari pretty much screwed themselves in every way possible today, didn't they? Because you've got all that with the team orders at the front. Then they go and do the undercut with Leclerc and get him ahead of Sebastian Vettel. And then after all that, Vettel has to pull over with an MGUK issue. He brings out the virtual safety car, and that gives Mercedes the 1-2. I mean, it couldn't have gone any more wrong, could it?
Well, no, exactly.
I sat there and I saw, there's some people saying, oh, maybe Vettel could have gone round to the pit lane and retired the car there, but Ferrari saying they couldn't do that because it would have caused more damage. But they just shot themselves in the foot big time today. And I think there's a lot of frustration there. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye out for some of the quotes that come out in the official press release. I'd imagine it's all sunshine and rainbows, just very disappointed. But it's frustrating for Seb, isn't it, Dan? He raced really well. He was quick, and I think I wouldn't say gutted for him, just really disappointed that he couldn't get to the flag.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Especially, there's always recency bias in Formula One, but before Singapore, that was it. Before Singapore, we were all slating Sebastian Vettel, saying that he really needs to change this form around. And he proved in Singapore that he can win Grand Prix. And this time, to me anyway, it looked like the Sebastian Vettel of old. And we've not seen that for such a long time. So I don't think this will put him in a negative space. I think in himself, he knows he had the pace to win today's race. But yeah, just disappointing because if you think about it, he very easily could have jumped up to third place in the championship today. Now he's comfortably behind Verstappen and Leclerc again.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, really. We kind of covered it all in the team orders bit with Vettel and that. Just unlucky with the reliability. His team radio was interesting. Afterwards, when he says bring back the expletive V12s, fascinating for a driver that never raced in the V12 era, by the way. But anyway, I don't know. Anything you want to say on Seb before I move on, Jonty?
No, I'm just a little bit gutted for him because the pace that he was showing at the start of the race and how close he was in quali, it's like that he was making his fight back, especially after getting the win in Singapore, even though it wasn't the ideal circumstances. He was trying to save himself as a driver, and it's just gone wrong.
We've been saying for a while, haven't we, Jonty, that one win, one good result, and we'd see the real Seb back. And I think signs of that again today, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the kind of pace that he had in Germany, but unfortunately Germany didn't result in a win, despite it being probably the best drive of anyone this year so far.
It was Mercedes that took the win, though. People frustrated with that, and Hamilton's lucky. But ultimately, I know it's a phrase they use a lot, but they got themselves in a position. They capitalised on that luck, and the luck doesn't always go their way. It might feel like it, but I don't think they had the raw pace yesterday for the win, but they were quick enough today to keep themselves in that safety car window, and I guess that's the point, isn't it, Dan? They've got to be thinking 2 steps ahead in Russia because we do tend to get safety cars or virtual safety cars, so I don't really think you can put it all down to luck. If it's all down to luck, they're a second a lap slower than Ferrari, and they look into it because they just look into it. They were, what was Hamilton at one point? I think it was about 3 or 4 seconds off Leclerc. Oh, no, he's consistently seems to be about 2.8 off Leclerc, to be fair. Fell back a little bit, but I don't think that's all luck. You might disagree. You might think it is just more luck for Mercedes, but...
No, I think actually this is something Mercedes have done all year long, and they set up their strategy really nicely yesterday, starting on the mediums, I believe. Yeah, the harder of the compounds of the leaders. And that allows them to go longer in the race, and we've seen it happen multiple times this year. That means there's a more chance of a safety car. It means they can get an arguable free pit stop. Hamilton did it in Silverstone, and it's happened again today. So, yes, of course, it's a little bit lucky when a car has reliability issues. You obviously can't predict that. But as you say, right place at the right time. And yesterday, the strategy, of course, they couldn't predict the race today, but it worked out to be perfect for them.
Bottas wasn't as quick as Hamilton. I think that's fair to say. And I think he did the job he needed to protect that at least the win and eventually the 1-2 to sort of hold Leclerc back. So I think some good strategy play there. I know some will think maybe Bottas playing wingman, but he wasn't quick prior to that. Unless I missed something, Jonty. He wasn't monstrously slower than his teammate, but it wasn't like he was particularly close to him either on pace.
Oh
no.
No. Brain's gone blank on that. I can't really think.
I'm trying to think back to his lap. There was a point, last lap's 37.2 for Bottas and the 38.2 for Hamilton, but that included crossing the line celebrating. But Bottas wasn't super quick today, and I think that's why they were using him to keep Leclerc behind. But were you surprised, actually, though? Actually, that's the point, Jonty. Were you surprised that Leclerc, with this Ferrari engine that is the most incredible thing in a straight line, that's 8 tenths quicker, according to Lewis Hamilton, than the Mercedes, couldn't breeze past Bottas?
A little bit, yeah. But you have to think about how much difficulty was that causing with the dirty air coming out of the corners, getting on the power. Because all of this 8 tenths slower overall, because of the straights in a lap, was based on qualifying, when they're not really following close behind.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what to say on Mercedes. I don't think putting it all down to luck is fair, but I would say today is more Ferrari throwing it away. Oh, which kind of contradicts what I just said, actually, Jonty.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put it all down to luck, but no one can deny that they have been incredibly lucky a hell of a lot.
Is that because they're quick, consistent, and reliable, though?
Yeah, absolutely part of it. You have to be there to, benefit from the luck, but no one can deny that the luck has been there for them to benefit from.
Yeah.
There's 6 and half a dozen of the other.
That's a fair point. Anything you'd like to add on Mercedes, Dan? I know it's only a reaction, and we're not analysing it massively, but I don't know if I've missed something.
Just remind me, Leclerc was second, right? And then he did an extra stop.
Yes, he did.
And got behind Bottas. Yeah, so again, like you said earlier, Ferrari shot themselves in the foot today, and I think Hamilton did have the pace to be on the podium, but I think Bottas got a little bit more lucky.
You've made me think, Dan. I'm just thinking, because obviously Bottas would have been soft and Leclerc would have been older mediums, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So Bottas might still have taken that podium, is what I'm thinking. Or that second place, sorry, still on the podium, isn't it? But yeah, that second place. I went to get a drink mid-watch along, and I completely missed the fact that Leclerc made a second pit stop. People had to tell me in the chat, but I was quite surprised because they didn't pull him straight in, did they? They waited.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, it was a feature in the F2 as well. The slipstream just wasn't as effective as normal in this race. And we even saw it with Verstappen and Albon a little bit cutting their way through the pack. So I think that was definitely a factor today. But I think we all expected Leclerc to be able to get past Bottas, and just wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think a lot of people in chat have been saying that as well, that they're quite surprised that... Excuse me, just having to pause a second. That they were quite surprised Leclerc didn't breeze up to the back of Bottas and cruise past him. But we'll move on. Like I say, it's only a reaction. It's not a proper analysis, so we're just chuntering really about what we thought of the race. We've done the major talking point, I guess. Max Verstappen P4, Alex Albon P5. People, not a lot of love for Alex Albon out there in the whole voting for driver of the day, Dan. But it's all right. There was a virtual safety car. All right, he benefited from the safety car bunching the field up as well, the full safety car, but he still went from the pit lane to P5.
I think that was his best race in Formula One. I thought he was awesome today, and I've got to put my hands up. I was screaming at the TV saying, "What? Show us Albon! Show us Albon!" Albon on the safety car restart instantly overtook the 2 racing points. Had an awesome ding dong with Kevin Magnussen that we didn't see for half an hour, and proving that something that Gasly wasn't really able to do was work his way through the field. But Albon, he's overtaken this year, has been awesome. And today, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really don't think he put a foot wrong. And Christian Horner at the beginning of the race said they'll hope him to be in the top 6. But P5 is joint best result in Formula One. I think you can tell I was pretty impressed with Alex today.
Yeah, I disagree on the best thing. I would say China was better. Pit lane to points in a Toro Rosso. But the TV direction, we missed loads of Albon. I was sat here doing the watch on going, Albon's past sights, but we're not seeing it because we're watching Leclerc get nowhere near Bottas. And it was like, you watch the overtakes. I was like you, Dan. I was desperate to see him coming through. But he's exactly the point there, Dan. He's making the moves that Gasly wasn't. Some people criticising him, saying he's not quick enough and that he's not doing much more than Gasly. He is definitely closer to Verstappen, not by much, but he's definitely closer. And he's getting the overtaking done that Gasly wasn't. He's more aggressive. He seems to be more relaxed in that car. It seems to suit him better. Gasly seems happier in the Toro Rosso for the most point. The swap, which we all were a bit critical of, but understood in the summer break, seems to be paying off for them. And I think Albon was absolutely fantastic today and deserves a mention in the driver of the day thing. I was quite surprised he wasn't right up there, to be honest. And Max Verstappen, P9 to P4 is, I think... If both Mercedes and both Ferrari finish, I think the best Red Bull we're going to get today was 5th and 6th. I think 4th and 5th is probably about right with obviously Vettel's retirement. But he didn't cut. You made the point there, Dan. He didn't cut his way through the field quite as dramatic as he did last year. I think by lap 5 he was up to 8th or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but he cruised through the field last year and he didn't quite manage to do that this year. So, but I think Red Bull can be pretty happy with this weekend. What do you reckon, Jonty? Do you think? Am I right? They would have ended up 5th and 6th if Vettel had finished, and that would have been about the best they could have got.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We saw the pace of Max, and he really couldn't hold a candle to either of the front two teams on the straights. We saw that straight away on lap one, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully, Honda will keep improving, ready for next year. But as for Albon, that's a hell of a drive. Yes, he benefited from the VSC and the safety car, but as we've said earlier, you've got to be in position to make the most of that look. And considering he's still getting used to that car, he's only been there a couple of races. Pit lane to fifth is stunning, and it is another testament to what a few people in chat have said, that the TV directing went back again. We've had it great for a few races, and then now when the real action is in the midfield, we're focused on the front. There was so much that they missed. We got a few clips of the Toro Rossos going at each other like maniacs, but we didn't see hardly any of Albon coming through. There was a couple of laps where we saw Norris and Albon swap places about 5 times in one lap and didn't see a single part of it. Really annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I get they wanted to focus on all the drama up front with the team radio, but play the team radio over the action we can watch. Do you know what I mean? That would have been fine by me, but I guess try to avoid confusion there. But I think, yeah, decent for Red Bull. I just saw Guardian of the Blind, I think it was Guardian of the Blind, said that it looks like Red Bull are back in that third place no man's land. It does feel like that after this last few Grand Prix, doesn't it, Jonty? Because they were second best, and some were saying, oh, are they going to end up with the best car this year and start challenging for the wins towards the end of the season? But since the summer break, I know Spa and Monza aren't tracks really for them, but they've not had the pace I expected.
No, certainly expected them to be a bit quicker here, with it having the street circuit-esque feel to it, and there's very much a lot of 90-degree corners where they tend to do well at. But, next we've got Japan, maybe. I think they're just looking forward to Mexico because it's almost a nailed-on victory for them every year.
Yeah, Japan, obviously Honda putting a lot of effort on that, aren't they? They've given Daniil Kvyat 72 new engines this weekend. It certainly feels like that poor Daniil Kvyat. We'll talk, do you know what? Yeah, let's talk about Toro Rosso. I'll come back to McLaren in a minute, but because you kind of touched on it there with the TV direction. Some good battling between Kvyat and Gasly, but what a thoroughly miserable weekend for Daniil Kvyat, Dan. I mean, oh, the poor guy. And he wasn't even able to wear his cool, which by the way did look awesome. If you've not seen it, check out Twitter. His cool special helmet design for Russia. Because nothing went his way, did it?
That was the worst thing, because that was a brilliant helmet design. Yeah, everything went wrong for him today. And even at the end of the race, I think he lucked out a little bit with the VSC, like a few of the guys did. Even then, he wasn't able to get in the points. Kevin Magnussen had his penalty and still just missed out. Everything seemed to be going wrong. I think the only thing that actually did go right for him was the fact he finished in front of his teammate, Gasly, who qualified P11, Kvyat, who qualified, well, it didn't do qualifying, did he? What am I on about? That's how bad it was this weekend. So at least Danny again, and I've been criticised a few times this year for just completely ignoring his races. What he has been able to do is work his way forward, and he was in front of the 2 Alfa Romeos at the end. He was trying to fight some of the cars, like you said, had an awesome fight with Gasly down into turn 1, and it almost, well, was fireworks between the two of them, like it was in practice. But at a home event, you want to at least be near the points, so he'll be disappointed for sure.
Yeah, that move by Gasly was ambitious. I think very late on the brakes. If you missed it, he just threw it up the inside of his teammate into turn 2, way too late on the brakes. Little lock up and straight past him. I think a little bit of frustration there from Pierre, but that was a good scrap. I think Toro Rosso will be disappointed with how the weekend went overall. But like you say, Dan, up to 12th place, not too bad. Focus for them is definitely going to be Japan, but I've not got a lot to say on Toro Rosso, which is why I want to hop straight back towards the top end to McLaren. 101 points this season, Jonty. I did not expect that in the winter. And Carlos Sainz today, in fact, all weekend, superb again. Gotta say it, was third on the run down to turn 2.
Yeah, I was really gutted with him. He was clear past, and I think one of the other front drivers, Hamilton, Vettel, we would have started to cut across there because he was clear past. I think someone like Hamilton would have been starting to show the door. Could well be a case that Sainz isn't used to being in that position and sort of wanting to protect it a little bit. Not get involved in anything risky. But he was a clear third place. It's a shame he couldn't hold it, because that could have mixed the race up even more, considering what happened.
Yeah, I suppose maybe I'm wrong, I'm going to put words in his mouth here, but maybe Carlos Sainz thinking, no point going past the Mercedes if I'm going to lose time with him overtaking me again anyway. Perhaps was part of that. But I think he was really good. Sainz has wowed me this season, as everyone knows anyway, but I think that Carlos Sainz was fantastic in qualifying, brilliant again in the race. Could have had... do you know what it reminds me of? Ocon and Perez, Belgium last year. It's like, just go for it. Just leave your braking half a metre later. Stick it down the outside. Yeah, you're going to lose time, but you ran third. Get us excited. But I can't really fault Sainz race today. Some good battling as well. Couldn't hold off Albon towards the end, Dan, which was a shame. But I tell you what that does do for Sainz. It moves him very, very close to 6th in the Drivers' Championship. Top 6 in a McLaren and 101 points for them. I'm going to keep saying that. It's been a pretty good weekend for McLaren fans, I think.
Yeah, and for McLaren as well, like you say, over 100 points now. But I think this is the first time since the summer break they've had a double points finish, which seems bizarre because they're always there at the moment as best of the rest. And at the beginning of the year, every single weekend it seemed to be a different team. But now we're almost finished, crazily enough, in 2019. McLaren have really had an awesome season. And Carlos Sainz, my God, the Chile master, on fire again this weekend. And nothing can seem to stop him at the moment. Comfortably best of the rest. Previously, there have been 2 or 3 drivers maybe fighting over that P7 and it will change through the pit stops. But Carlos Sainz just in control all weekend. And as you said, a little bit unlucky to lose out to the 2 Red Bull cars, but it's a Red Bull. We don't expect McLaren to even be anywhere near the Red Bulls. So to be right up there with them and to even be saying that was unlucky to be passed by a Red Bull at the end just proves what an awesome job he did once again today.
The Chili Master.
Yeah, they call him the Chili, don't they? His friend, he's got a chili on his helmet.
Oh, of course, yeah. That makes...
That's what I was going.
I thought you had another breakdown, mate. I thought that was it. Dan's gone again, thinking about food. But yeah, I was impressed with Sainz. I have been all season. A few in chat, completely agreeing. But Lando Norris as well, P8 for him, solid. He was pretty racy as well. I've got to say, and we didn't get to see much of that enough of that midfield really, like we did in Singapore. That was great to watch all of that, but he did well, Norris, to fend off Nico Hülkenberg, because Hülkenberg was, every time I looked at the timing screen during the watch-along, he was within 0.6 of Norris, and he appeared, Lando, to be struggling a bit with pace, but kept keeping Hülkenberg behind him, kept his head down, and just got on and managed in the end to end up with 8th place thanks to Kevin Magnussen's penalty. So I think really good, I don't want to say defensive driving from Lando, because I don't really know for sure if he had to do any moves to block or prevent Hülkenberg going for an overtake, but I think the fact that he managed, because I was absolutely adamant Hülkenberg was going to get him. When I was looking at the timing screens, like, well, Hülkenberg will get 10th and that's Lando going to lose the points. But I personally think that both McLarens were pretty much spot on this weekend, Jonty. But I do think there'll be some disappointment they couldn't get 7th from Perez, who also, by the way, drove extremely well today.
Yeah, he did, but there was some talk. Didn't Norris not pit under the second safety car? Didn't he stay out and at the end was losing a hell of a lot of time?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, he was quite long on the medium tyres, wasn't it, at the end?
Yeah, and that really stung him with the people who had dived in, stuck on some softs.
Yeah. That's the thing, is if he's around those soft runners. Perez, I was just going to say there that some talk was that he benefited from the safety car. He said in an interview afterwards that he didn't. They just missed the safety car by a couple of laps. So all that time he made up to end up 7th was not through the safety car. So I think that kind of highlights how good he was. But that racing point was so quick in a straight line today, Jonty. I know they tend to set up quite slippery in the past, but I was quite surprised to see how well he managed to fend off some of the quicker cars behind him. Particularly the Red Bulls coming through.
Yeah, but that's classic racing point, isn't it? Traditionally they've always been good in a straight line. Spa, Monza. Thankfully, they managed to keep it going today. I think they gained a lot just with the fact that it's a hell of a long run down to turn 1. That will give them really good track position. So,
yeah, I'm just looking at chat. People talk chili and milk. I assume that's Sainz and Norris. I'm such an old man. I really am. I'm sat here like, oh, what does all this mean? Are these memes? But yeah, I've got to be honest, and seems to be the driver that ends up 7th place every race. It feels like that anyway. I don't remember seeing a huge amount of Perez. What we did see, I was quite happy with. I think he was doing a good job. But again, that's that TV direction, like you were saying, Jonty. We didn't get to see enough, did we, of Perez battling through the field and Sainz fighting with Albon and Norris having to fend off Hülkenberg. We need to, when things settle down at the front, the director has got to go to that midfield and pick up on that. Sorry, I just had to pause. I wasn't waiting for him to talk. Samar in chat putting a chili and milk and an avocado. It's getting ridiculous now, isn't it? There'll be a ham in a minute for Hamilton anyway. But Kevin Magnussen, grumpy after the session, Dan. And I mean grumpy, mate. Not happy after the race. Penalty for failing to return to the correct side of the bollards at turn 2. Correct penalty. I mean, it is, isn't it, by the letter of the law, if you like. But he thinks that was a harsh penalty.
If he thinks that a harsh penalty, tell him to go and watch the F2 race.
Yeah, exactly. Countless drivers got penalised for that in F2 today. But I don't know why K-Mag was that upset. It's the 4th time. I believe it's the 4th time he's picked up points this season. The first time since Germany. And before Germany, it was Spain. So he's been on a real drought for quite a while now. Likewise with Grosjean. And that car, we've seen, and Jonty said a few weeks ago, it's the second worst car comfortably now. So to score points in that, I personally think he should be very happy. Even with that penalty or not, I think he actually did a really good job today.
Yeah. I think the point Jonty was making, I might be wrong, don't want to put words in your mouth, mate, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the point is that the reason those bollards are there is to avoid things like Aitken and Mazepin today.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy what Mazepin was doing. Aitken wasn't completely innocent, but it just shows that's the reason they're there. Stop people rejoining the track at full throttle.
Well, so it seems like the perfect time actually to do it. The latest is that both drivers are conscious, they're okay. Matsushita was extracted from the car after that crash by the medical team, but I think he's staying in hospital overnight, was the last I heard. So he is okay in air quotes. You know what I mean by okay. He's with us. Is the best way to put that. So lucky boys. I know the Tech Pro barriers are there to absorb that kind of impact, but it was the side-on second impact from Mazepin that had me a bit concerned. But it was a bloody long half hour, wasn't it, Jonty? It felt like about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean it's good that they're doing that, but it's very, very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely. Most important thing is that they're both okay. So. Yeah, but I tend to agree with you, Dan. I think he's got to be happy with 2 points. I mean, he's beaten his awful teammate to take V9. So, a couple of points. Yeah, he could have had a couple more, but Haas aren't going to finish realistically any higher than 8th. In fact, I'm just going to check the standings. Another pop on screen as soon as I do this, but I think actually 28 points. They're going to find it tough to finish any higher than 9th at the moment. So every single point they can get could be critical in what could end up as a tight battle for Alfa Romeo. And I know people say that fighting for 8th and 9th in the championship isn't exciting, but from a team point of view, it's all money in the pocket. So a couple of points on the board it could be huge for him and for the team. So if they get to Abu Dhabi and they finish in 8th place thanks to those 2 points, then I think he might have a different outlook. But I kind of get why he's annoyed and why he'll think that penalty's harsh, but you've got to return to the left of that bollard. They've been pretty consistent with that in the racing, not necessarily in the sessions, but in the racing this weekend. So I think that was a hard but fair penalty based on the rules. Nico Hülkenberg already said P10. He was quite racy today. Actually did some good defensive driving, a bit of attacking as well, but he was not lucky, but he had to fight off Lance Stroll towards the end. 2 stops for Hülkenberg. I assume one of those was under the safety car, I'm guessing. But we've already talked about Toro. So Alfa Romeo, 13th and 14th. I suppose we could talk actually Kimi. I'm going to ask the question. It's a stupid question to ask, Jonty, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. Do you think it was right that Kimi got the drive-through penalty for jumping the start?
It seems a bit harsh.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because he did come to a full stop immediately. It's like, shit, gone too early. And then go. It's not like he actually got a jump start. So I think 5 seconds would be more than enough.
It's one of those, isn't it, that you look at and you go, he could have done what you see online in F1 2019 where they just get the jump start and keep driving, but at least he stopped. but it's one of those that by the letter of the law, it's got to be that drive-through, hasn't it? Because that is a standard penalty for that. So,
It does raise a question. If it's a completely standard penalty, what's the chance of a driver just going on the first red light, just absolutely banzai nail it, see if they can get a drive-through ahead?
that's what I used to do on the F1 games. I'm not going to lie. I'm still terrible at them. When I was even worse at them, and they brought the whole manual start in, I used to jump the start, overtake everybody while the lights were still coming on, get myself enough up the road so that I could pop into the pits and do my drive-through and still come out fourth. It's a fair point, because obviously, I would assume there must be a harsher penalty depending. But if it's a standard drive-through penalty, then go for it. Why not? It's not safe, is it? I shouldn't really encourage that. But on the other side of the garage, you can tell me off later, Jonty. On the other side of the garage, Antonio Giovinazzi caught up in a tangle with Daniel Ricciardo and Moan Man Grosjean. On that first, I'm only doing it because Dan's here. I'm sorry, Dan, mate. I am. I know you love him, but racing incident. Would you say, Dan? I know you're going to be a little bit biased, but I don't think that's any more than a little bit of a share of the blame for each of them and move on.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, I think if you're going to put blame anywhere, it would be Grosjean, because he probably would have a little bit more room to his left. But we saw a similar kind of thing at turn 2. I hate calling it turn 2, but with a couple of, I think that was Stroll, Hulkenberg. I can't remember the other one. Might have even been Giovinazzi again. So that's just the nature of the circuit. So yeah, no issues from me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gio, that space is always going to disappear, but he's going to put his car in now in the first lap, isn't he? So Ricciardo always going to put the squeeze on because he can't exactly cut the corner. And if Rogro's sticking to the rules and staying inside the white line, he'll be the first one all weekend practically. But if he's sticking by the rules, then there's not a lot of space left. But I think, are you sort of saying that you think he could have bailed out of that one a little bit into the runoff?
Not so much. I think probably he just wasn't aware that there were 2 cars on the inside. So I think he probably, like you say, probably could have gone on the runoff a little bit. But yeah, racing incident for me. That's
all with hindsight, of course. He's split-second decisions, aren't they? And like you say, he's not a bit like Kubica. Was it Kubica, Russell, and Ricciardo in Singapore? You know that you've got the car on your inside, but you don't know there's then another one on your inside, do you? So, do you agree, Jonty? Do you think that's a racing incident, or are we going to put that 100% at Grosjean's door?
Honestly, I'd have to put more of the blame on Gio's door.
Wow, thank you, Jonty.
He was the one. He was the one quite a bit further back than the other two. Grosjean was actually being really sensible and sort of keeping as wide as he could, just in case. I think he actually would have had a fair reason to be complaining on that one.
We always manage to get a dig in, don't we? So you mean like Gio could have just backed out of it and seen that was going to close?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you watch the on-board, you can see the 2 cars coming together. It's like Max and the Ferraris in Singapore. But on that occasion, he didn't really get the chance.
Jonty, I don't know if you cut out there, mate. You were a bit robotic at the end there. I think you finished your point.
I think so. Oh, am I still robot?
A little bit, yeah. But I'll give you a minute, and I'll throw this to chat because, like I say, driving incident, racing incident, or which driver are you blaming? Just pop in the chat. Let me know what you think. It'll be interesting to get some. I think racing incident, to be honest. But I am tempted because Dan said to blame Grosjean, but I won't do it, Dan. Don't worry, mate. I'm only messing with you. But I think it's a fair point, do you reckon, Dan, on Gio? Could have backed out of that one a little bit?
Maybe. Again, it's just the nature of that corner for me. It's always going to be closing. Maybe a little bit optimistic from Gio, but sorry, Jonty, I'm not changing my stance. As much as it's lovely you're trying to defend Grosjean, and this is a very bizarre situation for me, I still think, racing incident.
Chat look like they're agreeing. Very much a racing incident. I think so. I think if we look at it and say, Gio could have backed out, Grosjean could have given more room, then we could argue, well, Ricciardo could have cut the corner to avoid the incident, but I tend to agree with the stewards on that.
A 50-30-20.
That'll do. Just throw percentages at it, why not? But yeah, we'll move on from that. I just want to talk. We've done Vettel, obviously. Ricciardo retired, I think, with a mechanical issue. I've not seen anything to say that it was from damage or anything, but I'll keep an eye out for the debrief tomorrow. So debrief be a bit more in depth, or as in depth as I ever go. In air quotes, Grosjean we've covered, Vettel we've covered, Williams. Bloody Williams. Do you know, they, apart from that point that Kubica got in Germany, they've done next to sod all season except finish every single race. Then we get to Singapore and Russell retires, and then we get a double retirement today. The wheels have just come off, Jonty. I'm absolutely devastated because I really wanted them to have that 100% record, which I know went last week, but then I was rooting for Kubica to get the 100% record, and it's gone in one weekend.
Yeah, it's a bit gutting, isn't it? You know, that's the one thing that they can hang their hat on, saying at least we finish all the time. Oh, maybe not. Which is a shame because Russell, I'm sure it was Russell, actually had a very quick start and was fighting with a couple of people, and then it all kind of just went out the window.
He was about 14th at one point, wasn't he? I seem to think.
Yeah.
Chun Lin saying in chat there, glad his brakes went off under virtual safety car. That's a good point. If that had been at full speed down to turn 2, that could have been, or even down to turn 13 like Sainz a few years ago, that could have been a horrible crash. That's a good point, actually. I first read that and thought, oh, that's a bit harsh, but then you think, well, under VSC, at least they're going a bit slower, aren't they? So, I think it is brakes, and he's unlucky with that, but lucky it wasn't a worse accident. Sorry, Jonty.
No, and he actually tweeted it on board of it. And it must have been literally just as the VSC ended, because the marshal post he goes past is flashing green. So he was probably just about to be going up to full speed again. I also have to say, excellent team decision by Williams to just flat out retire Kubica immediately. You can't take a risk like that.
It's from a safety point of view, yeah. And I agree. I mean, I'll put my sceptical hat on and say that if they were running 1 and 2 when that happened, they probably wouldn't have done. But if you're in a position to retire a car through, I mean, I'd like to think they would. Safety first, but I didn't actually know that. So it's caught me there. I didn't actually know they'd chosen to retire him because of Russell's.
Well, at least that's what was being said on the commentary. I've heard nothing since, but it would make sense. No, that's what I'm sure they had Ted saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just hadn't heard why he retired. Same with Ricciardo. I thought that might have been through damage with the Giovinazzi Grosjean thing, but gutting for Williams. Dan. I know we shouldn't really hover around Williams too much, but it would have been nice for them for one of the drivers to get that 100% record, because it's about the only thing they have done all season.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, George Russell wasn't actually having that bad of a race. And if he'd stayed out a little bit longer and Seb had his issue, maybe he could have potentially, I don't want to say sniffed the point, but maybe he could have got even a P13, a P14 at the checkered flag. So, yeah, they'll be a little bit disappointed, but I don't think they're losing any points or losing any sleep over this one.
Go on then, chat. Throw a surname at me. Don't literally throw it, because you throw things, you take somebody's eye out. But just pop it in chat. Oh, dear. Just put something in chat for me. Quick surname. Who's your driver of the day? Vettel got the official one, despite not finishing the race. So that's going to rule him out for mine, because the driver has to finish the race for me to give driver of the day, because I'm a tight git like that. Who's your driver of the day, Jonty? I'll come to you this time.
Absolutely, Albon. With all the pressure that's on him so early into his Red Bull career, and to deliver a pit lane to 5th. Superb drive.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to have to be boring and agree with Jonty, I'm afraid. Albon was awesome today. As I said earlier, I still feel that was his best race in F1. And even though we didn't see half the overtakes on camera, the ones we did see were great. So yeah, got to go Albon.
I probably have to be boring as well and say Albon. I just think he was superb to make his way through the field. But my second pick, I'll do that way, because that's at least we get a bit of a difference. My second pick would have been Sainz. I think he's been brilliant all weekend, possibly even driver of the weekend, but certainly deserves a mention in there. I think Vettel, I know he didn't finish, but Vettel does for his pace, definitely. I think Verstappen coming back from 9th is worth a shout. Perez was good, but I'd say Albon number 1 and then Sainz number 2 for me. But I think that's anybody that does a recovery drive like that, I'm always going to give driver of the day to, regardless of their car. So have a look at somebody. I've had to refresh the chat, so I might have missed some of the earlier ones, so apologies. Pepe says Vettel, Drew's gone with Albon, Ace Ray has gone with Sainz. Doyler has gone with Albon. I'll skip through some. Albon as well for Deep Sea, Jacob, Alex, John. Jim Plus has gone with Carlos. Mike has gone with Albon. Mr. Hall has gone for Magnussen. Fair point. I still think I'm with Dan. He's got to be happy with that. Kat says Vettel, as does... Oh, no, they don't at all. I'm lying to you. Marty says Albon. Cosmin says Albon. Daniel Philpott says Grosjean, obviously. Jamie says Sainz. Hockey Boy says Bottas. Vettel for Matt. Going to skim through again. Samar says Albon and Bottas execute Vettel. Oh, that sounded... No, I don't... That wasn't a call to action, sorry. Execute in chat has just said Vettel. Ricardo Patrese for Fred Fredson. There you go. And 2 more. Albon for James Stockdale and Lewis for Elliot. That is Lewis, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't read it then. Elliot says Lewis, yeah. Do you think Lewis deserves a shout in there, Dan? I know the pace might not have been there for the Mercedes, but he kept himself in striking distance for the safety car and then Ferraris, and then kind of was comfortable up top. I know a little bit of help from Bottas, but do you think he deserves a shout or a mention, a nod?
For me, they've got to make at least one on-track overtake. That's not lap 1. So, no, not for me, I'm afraid.
Wow. All complaints in the comments after this go to Dan at F1/E-Reviews for the Hamilton hate there. No,
I'd agree. He didn't really do anything.
I'm just throwing it out there. It wasn't me. Somebody else said it. It's all that person in chat's fault. It's not my fault. But yeah, I think I'll give him a nod. Yes, you won the race. That will do. But I think there's some good drives today. Would have liked to have seen a bit more, but obviously not going to happen. Do want to very quickly get your 2 views on a couple of the things that have happened pre-race this weekend. I'll come to you first, Jonty. I am so stupidly hyped for this for all of the wrong reasons. But in 2021, mate, McLaren, Mercedes are back together. Are you excited for that? Are you sceptical? Are you indifferent?
It's impossible not to be excited, especially after what we were seeing at the start of this race. You're seeing Sainz side by side with Lewis and go, they've got Mercedes engines in a couple of years. This is going to be good. I just sincerely hope they've still got Sainz and Norris at that point and don't make a stupid decision next year.
I wonder what you could mean. I agree. I absolutely agree. Do you think there was a moment? Probably not, but I like to think that there would be. But Toto Wolff, Carlos Sainz is there alongside Lewis, and he's going, "Oh crap! We've given these Mercedes engines. What have we done?" Are you excited, Dan, to see McLaren Mercedes back together? I know it's just a name, but it's for me that was growing up.
Yeah, likewise with me as well. So I know that's hard to believe. But yeah, it was a pretty cool announcement. I feel a little bit for Renault, especially considering I think they've made quite a big step forward this year. And that McLaren-Renault partnership seems to be working quite well, in my opinion. So I was a bit surprised, but I'm like you two. I think this is pretty cool news.
Were you surprised, Jonty? Did it take you as a bit of a by surprise?
Yeah, it was totally unexpected. I've got to be honest.
No, I was the same. It wasn't until I saw the article from everyone's favourite 21st century journalist, Joe, that I sort of went, yeah, maybe, but I didn't totally believe that, even though, to be fair, he is quite reliable. And then it all started to break, and I was like, sorry. And then it all started to break, and I was like, wow. McLaren Mercedes, and again I know it's just a name really, but it's iconic in Formula One. Maybe get rid of that orange livery, and give us something black and grey and silver again would be awesome. I'd quite like to see that, but great. And it kind of will bring an end to what's been a really weird few years for McLaren. It didn't work with Honda. Yeah, they've been better with Renault, but it's not really worked how I think they were hoping it would. And I mean, it's not worked how Renault were hoping it would, has it? Let's be honest. But I think it ends a really weird era, but I'm absolutely thrilled for them. Also, Dan, new name for Toro Rosso. I've forgotten it already. Alpha Tori or something like that. Some people on Twitter saying, are they the next Rich Energy? Because no one's ever heard of them. But Red Bull fashion brand, are you as excited as you are for McLaren Mercedes to see Alpha Tori joining the grid in 2020? Try and be excited, mate, please.
Yeah, I had to do my research. I'd never heard of them either. I mean, it's fine, but I was just getting used to calling Alfa Romeo Alpha as shorthand. So now we're going to have to change that because it's going to be 2 Alphas on the grid. I don't need the change, but it's fine, I guess. Spice things up just a little bit.
Maybe call Alfa Romeo and Alpha Tori for short R and at. Like, at. Why not?
Not sure about that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, does it, Jonty? It's the same team. It's not a big deal, but it's nice to know, I guess.
But if anyone knows the history of Alfa Romeos, just figure out, just ask which of them is rusting. Oh, right, it's the Alfa Romeo then.
I only get that because of Top Gear, by the way. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about that kind of thing, but I get that because of Top Gear. Yeah, it's another name. There was something else, and I can't even remember what that news was now. But we'll take... What I will say on the AlphaTauri thing, actually, because they've just jogged memory in chat, Chunlin again saying Crofty is doomed. I put it on Twitter. Next year's going to be mad in commentary. We're going to have Racing Point be referred to as Force India. We're going to have people calling Alfa Romeo Alpha and then having to explain they don't mean AlphaTauri, they mean Alfa Romeo. And then they're going to, it's going to be an absolute nightmare, Jonty. It'll be a laugh, though. I'll put it that way, especially with Johnny Herbert.
We're going to have Alpha Salva Point India.
That's not a bad idea, is it? We could just combine them all as one team.
It's going to be a nightmare. The problems that he's had this year, just getting drivers apart.
I'm trying to think, now you said that, I'm trying to think, there was one where it's like, and that's Perez, and it's like, no, it isn't. What about it? Weirdo. No, I mean, it can't be easy. I mean, I don't do proper commentary. I just do the watch-alongs, and it's very difficult to keep on top of everything and get things right. So it can't be easy for him. But the teams are certainly not making it any easier for poor Crofty. But yeah, it's not the biggest news in the world, but it's good to know for next year. In 2021, that was the other thing. Super quickly, Jonty. We had a brief conversation about it the other day. Looks like the bottles are already coming, mate, for 2021. Something we've been saying pretty much for the last 12 months. That as soon as we got to the point that the rules were on the brink of sign-off, we'd start to get bottles. We're not getting the standardised brakes now. Because teams are throwing the toys out the pram.
Yeah, exactly. Where today offers an argument for them straight away. So it's very, very sad to see. Especially when you've also got the talk of Ferrari saying, we hope we don't have to use our veto. As if he's standing next to Michael Caine saying, it's a long walk back and it's that way. Yeah, it's very, very Mafia-esque and it really wasn't good to see.
Very odd. I was pessimistic about 2021 anyway, and I'm even more so now because all of a sudden this narrative of reverse grid sprint races replacing qualifying, that started to ramp up again, which says to me that there's going to be more concessions on the rules side. I am of the belief, and I know I'm repeating what I've said and Jonty has said and other people we've had on the channel as well have said, that they need to write the rules, slap them on the table and say, right, there they are. Either sign up and you can join us from 2021 onwards. If not, thank you very much for your service, and we'll see you in 5 years when you're back with your tail between your legs, because that's what would happen. We see it all the time with Renault, Lotus, Benetton, whatever you want to call them this week. They've just got to set the rules, get them signed off and say, that is what it is, don't like it, tough shit, quite frankly, is what they've got to say. They won't, because they're terrified Ferrari will leave, which Ferrari will not, but they're terrified they will. Ferrari threatened to quit. If you're new to F1, when the Concord agreement, the agreement between all the teams and the FIA and all that, and the FOM come round, every single time Ferrari are like, well, if we don't get our way, we're going to leave, in Italian, obviously. And we get it every single time. And it's Jonty will back me up here. Whenever you hear it, the first time it comes out when they start negotiating these new rules, the first thing I do is roll my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is Ferrari's shtick. They always use these threats, but the debate's been going on for a very, very long time. The fact is, Ferrari needs F1. F1 does not need Ferrari. This goes all the way back to the very, 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 very first race, which Ferrari didn't take part in because they were complaining about money.
Yeah. I feel like we're just going over the same thing again, John. We've done so many streams, haven't we? We just get really annoyed. I get the value that F1 has in Ferrari and vice versa. Then they're not going to separate. Bernie Eccleston saying, by the way, that he thinks that Liberty should do a deal with Ferrari and Red Bull and then tell everyone else to like it or lump it. And it's like, no, Bernie, how does that solve anything? You've then just got two massively powerful teams who can get away with everything instead of the three. I'm just very concerned. We're losing everything that we promised for 2021. We keep getting, we were going to do this, but we can't now. We were going to do this, but we can't now. It's been pushed back to the 31st of October, a date that is going to drive me mad for the next few months for one reason or another. It's a date I never want to ever think about, except for the fact it's Halloween and I'll probably be drunk and won't care by then. I just trying to get angry. It really does my head in that this sport is so desperate to offer this little olive branch to Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull and be like, please don't leave us. Go. I'm sorry. It won't go down well. Piss off. If you don't like it, just go. What Jeremy Clarkson said about safety was absolute nonsense, but what he said about the rules and Mercedes and Ferrari, absolutely spot on. If you don't like it, go off and do something else, because that midfield is mega this year, and if we had that as a championship fight, people would not be complaining about how incredibly bad they seem to think this season is. I don't think it's a bad season, but I'm just so... I despair. I can't help it, Dan. I get so wound up about this. Oh, you can have your say, mate.
Well, I'm not going to get as passionate as you just did. That was lovely. That was great
Thank
to
you.
hear. I think, again, I don't want to copy what you've both just said, but this deadline, it's going to keep rolling over. And the issue that they've had ever since, maybe the beginning of 2017, is we're idolising 2021. And very easily, the first race of 2021 could be in Melbourne, and it could be a bit of a snooze fest. That's not an unrealistic expectation. But because they keep saying, look, wait for 2021, the brilliant rating's going to be here, anyone can win, they're setting themselves up to fail now, and they keep pushing it back, and they're giving themselves less and less time to try and sort things out. And you've got to think to yourself, that's not good. That's only going to cause more negative. So I think all of us agree on this. We just hope the racing gets a little bit closer. We hope that on circuits like Russia, we don't have the entire grid being spaced out by 3 seconds. And I'm still confident they can sort it out, but it's getting more and more close to that deadline and a little bit more nerve-wracking each time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hope they get it right. I really do. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't think they will. And those renders, by the way, they look fantastic. Those 2021 designs look amazing. They won't look like that when they get to the grid. They'll look nothing like that. They'll be boxy like they are now. They won't be all flowing and beautiful and all that. And as I said before, the FIA or whatever can get their people together and try and find loopholes in these regulations all they want. Teams will find other ones. It's the way it goes. And I still think, me and Stuart discussed this in a podcast a while back, that the FIA have almost, or the FOM and Liberty, whatever, have all kind of almost shot themselves in the foot by pushing it back to the 31st, because they've given the excuse it's more of a level playing field. It means that the top 3 teams can't get a head start. Makes sense, but when you actually think about it, it means that the haves are going to throw more resources at 2021 because they've got less time, whereas the have-nots are not going to be able to throw that much resources at 2021, and we're still going to end up with a top 3 and the rest. Maybe a top 4 if we're lucky. Maybe I'm too sceptical, Jonty. I know we're both a little bit about this, but I don't think pushing this back to the 31st of October was the right thing to do. I think this should have been signed off, like it or lump it rules, in June as they were supposed to, or whenever it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much what it should have been. Because every time that they push things back or make allowances or changes, what have you, it just shows that they're not going to go through with all of these plans, which is just not what we need. like we keep saying, those are the rules. There's the door. Take your pick.
Yeah. I think I'm going to leave it there because I just get so annoyed. I get so annoyed with this. Yes, Annette, just sign it already. Just sign that contract. Get it done. One other thing before I take some comments from chat, though, and I'm going to put this to you, Jonty, because I know how much you love Sochi. Fantastic racetrack. It's one of your favourites of the year. Could, depending on which report you believe, could be dropping off the calendar in 2020, and it's going to move to St. Petersburg. Got that name wrong in the stream yesterday. St. Petersburg, possibly, for the end of for 2021 onwards. Are you going to be, I'll give you a minute to take the emotion, mate, but are you going to be sad to see Sochi go?
Did you call it its old name?
No. I was more crude than that.
Oh, right, so you weren't calling it Leningrad, that's all right.
No.
Or Stalingrad, whichever one it was. No, I wouldn't be sad to see Sochi go. Because as much as the likes of Will Buxton have lauded up on Twitter saying how good a venue it is, the racing has been still pretty poo.
Maybe the best venue in the world. Look at Monaco. It's stunning, but...
Yeah, exactly. And we don't have the history or all of the backdrop and scenery that you get at Monaco here. Yeah, there's some pretty fancy buildings, but it's all flat. I know it's a constant argument we're making against various tracks, but you need some elevation change. It adds to them so much.
Come on then, Dan. Surely you've got some love for Sochi.
Well,
No?
considering I've defended Abu Dhabi before, I've defended Melbourne. I still struggle to defend this one. I mean, there's a maximum pretty much of 3 overtaking spots if you're lucky. I think there's better venues. I'd rather go to a Hockenheim or a Malaysia, to be honest with you. So, yeah, even I can't give love to Sochi.
The downside to St. Petersburg, by the way, is another Tilke design track. But a few people saying yesterday that it's a really exciting, or looks like a really exciting layout. But if F1 are so adamant to get to this 25 race calendar, bring Sepang back. Let's go back to Malaysia. Find a way to get that deal done financially, because that race, the circuit is fantastic. The weather is variable, so you've always got that element of what is it Murray Walker says? It doesn't rain in Malaysia by the bucketful, it comes down in the ocean full, or something like that. It can do that like that. We've seen it so many times. You can overtake, you can race as close as F1 cars get. I love that track. It's brilliant, and if you're going to do it, bring it back. Let's get rid of, I don't want to get into the gravel trap argument, but let's get rid of the likes of Sochi. Let's get rid of Abu Dhabi. I know they won't because of the money, but let's get some real tracks. Get some real tracks. I know Malaysia was like one of the first, not the first, but one of the first Tilke tracks, but in my opinion, Jonty, Sepang was the one he got absolutely spot on.
Well, yeah, because it was the first one.
Yeah.
Of that style. You watched Stuart's video going through them, and you got all the bits just right, and then tried to copy them at each track, and every single time they just got a bit worse. You know, and the same layout's not going to work everywhere. And I haven't actually seen St. Petersburg. I should go and have a look at it, but it's all good saying it looks like an exciting layout, but it doesn't have to be an exciting layout for terrific racing. How many corners does Austria got again?
Too many, mate. I can't keep count. It's about 9, is it, in Austria?
Yeah, exactly. I think it technically qualifies as 11 because there's a breath of a kink somewhere, but that's about it.
Really annoys me. It's like turn 1 in Russia. It's like, oh, they're coming through turn 1. It's like, that's not a bloody corner. All right, in your road car, you'd be clinging on for dear life, but I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. I'm going to go to chat and take a couple of comments, and then we'll end it there. Astro Steve, actually, while we're talking about tracks, says Sweden or Finland Grand Prix. I'd love to see a Finnish Grand Prix. I think that'd be a great way for Formula 1 to, in air quotes, give back something to Finland. They've given us some bloody good racing drivers over the years, so let's go to Finland. I would love that. I think ST would as well, because he'd be able to go over from Norway, but a bit easier than travelling all the way to Silverstone, although I think he quite enjoys that one. TJ says Tilke tracks are so trash and repetitive. I think Jonty kind of touched on that. They all got a bit samey after a while. 2009, that race was great, says the FIA stewards. I assume it was Sepang. That was a short race, wasn't it? Didn't go on very long. Bring us Istanbul back. Turn 8 was mega, says John. That's another one, actually, isn't it, Dan, that it was a great track. Obviously, they're never going to go back to Turkey, certainly the way things are at the moment. But it was a great track. But they've just taken Turn 8 and tried to replicate it everywhere. We've got one sort of in Russia. We've got one in COTA as well. I hate saying COTA, sorry, in Austin, the Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, and like you say, they're never quite as good.
No.
Is Vietnam a Tilke track? Because I think that one,
Probably.
again, looks can be deceiving in Formula 1, but I think that one actually looks all right. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Bit of a... I think it's got a Baku vibe to it, that one. Not like it's not laid out the same, but it's got a Baku vibe to it. But Deep Sea Gaming says 1 race per state in the USA. I'll accept that if it's at existing awesome racetracks. I will accept that one. Oliver
And if it includes Alaska.
Yes. Oh yes, spicy racing. In February. Oliver says no, Abu Dhabi is a good track. To be fair to Abu Dhabi, last year was actually a pretty good race. I've never been a fan though. It just feels too artificial. But it is, again, it's a spectacular sight at the end of the season. It does look pretty stunning under the lights, but I'm not really a big fan.
But no, the person does make quite an interesting comment, because you've got to think, if someone who's just getting into F1, last year was the first season they watched, they'll think Abu Dhabi's a fantastic track, because it was a genuinely great race to close the season out. Unfortunately, they haven't seen all the years before where everyone's been asleep by lap 12.
Domenico was saying now about more European races and bringing F1 home. I know there'll be a few people that disagree with you on that one. Joseph says, is Gio underrated? He's really been catching up to Kimi in both race and quali. Come on then, Dan. I know you do like your Gio. He's definitely. I said this after Singapore quite a lot. He's definitely improving race on race. He's got a way to go, but he's not completely different driver, but he's performing a damn sight better than he was in that first part of the season. And I've been quietly impressed with him.
Yeah, I think those first 2 races he did back in 2017 were okay. But I think, like you say, the first half of the season didn't do himself any favours. Canada was a pretty awful race. Silverstone beached himself at Club Corner. But recently, since the summer break, something's happened. But he seemed to be right on the pace, scoring points, which is something I think he scored 1 point before the summer break. He's really turning it around, and I'm happy for him because, those first few races, he was at the back of the field, and now finally he's out qualifying Kimi. I know Kimi this weekend got a little bit unlucky on his final run, but he's also right there in the race with Kimi. So improvements are being made. I just don't think he did himself any favours at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, has Gio grown on you a bit, Jonty, this year?
I think what Dan's been referring to there is after the summer break, he seems to have just settled a little bit. The impression I got throughout the first half of the year, he was constantly trying too hard and overdriving, and then putting himself into the position where it's not necessarily a mistake. It's just he's gone further than he can get back from on certain corners, in certain scraps and what have you. I think he just needs to settle, because he had that sniff of a chance back in Sauber. And now he's got that full seat for the year. He's kind of got a bit overexcited, which is what I hoped wouldn't happen. But now he has settled, and it's working wonders. He's been genuinely quick the last few races.
I wonder if he's had some reassurance about his seat for next year. And that's maybe made him go, well, I don't need to try quite so hard. I just can settle and do what I need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, have you heard of something I haven't?
Kroon Chandok said that his dad, Gio's dad, had told him that he got the seat, and then Alpha came out and said that's not true. And Ferrari have been saying that they are supporting him. But I don't know if maybe over the summer break they spoke to him and said, don't worry, you'll be fine, you're going to be staying next year, or you're looking good to stay next year, and it just means that he doesn't have to try quite so hard. Because drivers, when they're under pressure, they do overdrive, don't they? So maybe that's just the reassurance he needed, is kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, there you go, everyone. Sean just told you that's Gio in Vettel's seat at Ferrari for next year.
Yeah. That is exactly what I said. Oh, if that is true, I'm having that. It's a clever one, Jonty, but I'll have that one if it comes true. A couple more, and then we're going to call it a day. I'm not going to talk about Mahave Raghunathan. I'm also not going to talk about Alonso. No. If anybody's asking, No. I'll say it again. Great personality, fantastic driver. That's it. He's done. His career's not over, but that's it. He's moved on from F1. Let's let him go. Bring back the V12s, says Radical Rat. I think we've discussed this plenty of time, Jonty. I think the V10s are the engines you prefer, aren't they, to the V12s?
Certainly from the sound, absolutely. But we can't go back there.
No.
We have to stick with the pushing forward. If there is going to be any slight hint of road relevance, it's got to be with helping push the hybrid.
What about you, Dan? What do you reckon? Stick with hybrids? He asked the Formula E fan.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not why I watch Formula One, for the sound, to be honest. So, and I know some people that is a big thing for them, and I totally get that, but it doesn't bother me all that much.
I would say, I can't remember who it was, so I apologise, but someone I was talking to on Twitter actually mentioned this, is like, stick with the hybrids we've got, but change them to either an L5 or a VR5, so that we can get that much sweeter, smoother sound. It's genuinely so much nicer than a V6.
Chat. Leclerc is the new Tictum ? Leclerc has talent, for starters.
Headshot.
Wow. I assume that's a joke. That has to be. We'll end on... I'm just seeing if there's anything on the race before. I have kind of picked one out that we could end on, but I just want to see if there's anything on the race that's relevant to that before I jump into that one. And now I'm scrolling through. I can guarantee I'm going to lose that comment now, and that'll annoy me. What's that street? Bring back the Screaming V10s and the Jordan 1917 up livery. I know somebody that's very up for that.
Absolutely. Maybe we were a little bit harsh on Tictum. He would be awesome going around Hensford Hills or Birmingham Wheels doing the banger racing.
Some trolleys need clearing in the Tesco car park near me as well. So, do you know, it's quite funny because I always get quite defensive of Dan Tictum, but some of the stuff he's done of late is quite indefensible. So it's difficult, but yeah, we will... I'll tell you, we'll go with that because it's relevant to the race. I was going to go with that, but this is from Gabilex. Butchering names. Fernandez says, for the next race, should Ferrari give Vettel the better strategy? We're going full circle, right back to the start of the video. Do you think Ferrari, Dan, maybe need to either give Vettel, as they're saying there, the better strategy and calm that, or do you think Ferrari just need to stop it and let them bloody well race and get on with it and sort it out amongst themselves? I've just answered the question if you haven't.
No, I think they need to learn from today that you can't really have a pre-race plan. Okay, you can say, look, you qualify first, you have the better strategy, but very quickly things can change. And as most teams do in Formula One, the car in front after lap 1 or lap 5 gets the preferred strategy. And they've done that all season long. They changed that this weekend. It hasn't worked. So I'd say revert back to the normal way of doing things.
You're so balanced, Dan. You really are.
I know. Sorry. Well, I get told off for doing hot takes sometimes, so not too many today.
Told off on the internet? I'm not having it. Jonty, what would you do if you're Ferrari in Japan?
Well, do it the way a lot of other teams do and have done in the past. Let them race up to the first round of pit stops, and whoever's in front gets the preferential strategy.
I love how positive you are by saying first round of pit stops. Very rarely get 2 these days, do we? It seems like.
Well, yeah, true. Okay, up until the moment they decide which letter of the alphabet they're using for their plan.
Well, Ferrari, they usually get down to about X, don't they, in a race? So, yeah.
They almost got onto the Cyrillic alphabet today, let's be honest.
I'm going to agree with you to a point, John. I think, let them race, let them sort it out amongst themselves, and then if the team are in a position where they want to protect the 1-2 or they do want to swap drivers around, do it later in the race. And don't, not like Austria 2002, don't stop Barrichello or stop Vettel on the line to let Leclerc through or vice versa. Just, if you want to sort your drive, that was the argument for me today. Just let them race, because as it turns out, try not to go back over it, didn't matter anyway. They didn't need to worry about the team orders because Vettel had a mechanical issue. So let the race play out. And then, let's say Vettel doesn't have that issue and he's had his pit stop and Leclerc's had his and they're still looking good, virtual safety car never happens. Then go, right, we had an agreement before the race, Seb. We're going to swap you over. Dan said it, not on lap 8. That's ridiculous. But I say, let them get on with it. Let them race. Trouble is, and I'll answer this question before it crosses me in the comments, you can't ban team orders. Because even if you want to ban team orders, teams will find a way around it, either with pre-agreements before the race or Fernando is faster than you. Actually, they didn't even try and disguise that, did they, Jonty? Let's be honest. That's not even an attempt to disguise a team order.
It almost was until Smedley said, "Can you confirm you understand this message?"
And then apologised to him afterwards. Sorry about that, mate. That's a guy I miss from F1 over the radio, is Rob Smedley. And Rocky as well, Vettel's engineer. I always like Rocky.
Yeah. It's impossible to police, even if they were able to police it with what's being said over the radio and having, former people from Bletchley Park working on the codes. They can still do simple things as change the colour of the numbers being used on the pit board. Oh, the numbers on my pit board are yellow. I need to let them through. It's absolutely impossible to police.
But even if you want to get really tinfoil hat about it, oh no, the right front's really sticky at this pit stop. I can't believe it. It's cost you your position to your teammate. It would take nothing to take a little bit longer to put a wheel on, would it? So there are ways they'd find a way around it. Oh no, you need to turn your engine down, it's broken. Oh look, your teammate doesn't need to.
Yeah, exactly.
But we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Dan, for joining me today. Sorry if I got a bit ranty and passionate at times. I got a bit angry, but yeah, thank you for coming along, mate. It was a pleasure as always, and I hope you enjoyed that and you're looking forward to Japan. Early starts from a YouTube perspective, mate. Oh.
Yeah, not looking forward to that too much, but thank you for having me. And also, thank you for letting me be here when Jonty was positive about Romain Grosjean. I'll never forget this day.
You tell your grandkids about this one.
He's going to put it in the card and everything and send a thank you. Yes, thank you very much, mate. I'm sure I'll talk to you shortly. And thank you as well to you, Jonty. Awesome to have you on again, mate, as ever. And I'm sure there'll be a bit of fallout from this one, I think, from Russia with all the team orders talk again, second year in a row. But I hope you enjoyed the race and I hope you're ready for Japan. I know you're used to getting up early because of work, but yeah.
Yeah, we all like Japan anyway. It's a fantastic track and the atmosphere that the Japanese bring to it is something else. It's always great, so thoroughly looking forward to that and always happy to be on. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. And actually, to be fair, just very quickly, from a YouTube perspective, it's also cool because it means you're done by lunchtime. So it's pretty mint. But yeah, thank you very much. That's the second time I've mint today. Stop it. Thank you very much, Dan, and to Jonty. I'm sure I'll talk to you both very shortly.
Yeah, you're sharp.
See you later.
Thank you very much to Dan and to Jonty. Thank you to you guys for the opportunity. Thanks as well if you came to the watch along. It was great to have so many pop along for that one. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new and to drop a like on the stream as well. Really helps the channel out. I know these race reactions get a little bit fragmented and whatnot, but that's kind of part of live streaming. It's why we enjoy it. So thank you very much. I will be back tomorrow or Tuesday. I always say that just because it takes pressure off tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow most likely with the debrief for the Russian Grand Prix, and then there'll be some more content next week, and then it's Japan, like I've already said, one of my favourite tracks of the year. Absolutely stunning. So much history as well. And like I say, all done by lunchtime usually, so that's awesome stuff. Thank you again for your support over this weekend and over the last few weeks as well. We're getting very close to 80,000 subscribers, so please don't forget to drop a subscribe and a like before you disappear. Like I said, back tomorrow. Don't forget you can follow me over on social media. The links to Twitter, to Instagram and to Facebook are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.